The State Board of Land and Natural Resources is set up under state law to be the policy board for the Department of Land and Natural Resources and all the things that this department is responsible for. I'm the chairperson of the board and also the director for the Department of Land and Natural Resources. The rest of the board members who I'm going to introduce to you today are all unpaid volunteers. We'll begin with adopting our minutes. Then we have one item on our board today. We wanted to come to the Big Island. We normally meet on Oahu, but we know that this is a very important matter for people here. So we had just one single item on the agenda in order to give people here time to be able to testify in front of us today.
In terms of a brief history, I want to just kind of go over it here. And like I said, I brought documents. As we all know, in 1968, the Mauna Kea Science Reserve was established pursuant to a general lease number S4191 and essentially gave UH a lease to develop telescopes at the summit of Mauna Kea. Following that, and under the direction of George Ariyoshi, former governor, the Mauna Kea Plan was developed in 1977. The Mauna Kea Plan was developed and approved by the Board of Land and Natural Resources in 1977, and I brought a copy of it here in case anybody wants to see it. It's essentially a very, as you can see, it's a very short document. It essentially kind of articulates the policies and objectives for how the board wanted to see the mountain managed in the future. In 1980, the Haleʻipohaku Master Plan was 1980. The Haleʻipohaku Master Plan was approved. This is the master plan for the mid-level facilities, approved by the Board of Land and Natural Resources. This was actually a recommendation of the 1977 plan, so they were in the process of implementing the 77 plan by creating the 1980 Haleʻipohaku plan. 1982, University Board of Regents approved a research development plan for the reserve, which is essentially this document, which I brought along for people to see. Shortly following that, the university developed the Mauna Kea Science Reserve Complex Development Plan, which is this document, and this relates to the science reserve area and essentially was the physical plan for the development of the summit of the mountain. And I think it considered a maximum of 13 telescopes up to the year 2000. That was approved by the University Board of Regents, I believe. Then in 1995, the board approved a revised management plan for UH management areas, which essentially set out the policies and objectives for public access and use of the summit area. And I don't have a copy of that document with me today, but it's largely been incorporated into the CMP, the Comprehensive Management Plan. I will note, however, that in terms of commercial permits, the university is currently handling the commercial tour operations, and that authority was delegated them by you, this board, not this board, but a previous board, back in the early 2000 era. 1998, there was an audit of the management of Mauna Kea. Everybody's aware of this document. Made a number of recommendations to improve the management of Mauna Kea. The recommendations were targeted at both the university and the Department of Land and Natural Resources. I won't go over those in detail at this point. I just wanted you to see that there is a physical document that was produced from that effort. In 2000, in response to the auditor's report, the university developed a Mauna Kea Science Reserve Master Plan. And I brought a copy of that along for you to see. This master plan kind of set out the management of telescope development on the mountain for the foreseeable future. And from this management plan, we have organizations like the Office of Mauna Kea Management being established, the Mauna Kea Management Board, and Kakahu Mauna, and other committees. So this kind of laid out the management framework for Mauna Kea. This was approved by the University of Hawaii Board of Regents. 2005, there was a follow-up audit done by the state auditor, and this audit was just simply, I think, an effort to see if the earlier recommendations of the auditor had been implemented or were in the process of being implemented. And I think the report had some good aspects to it, and probably still had some criticisms in it. But I think it did show that there were actions being taken to improve management. And I think one of the big actions that occurred was the creation of Office of Mauna Kea Management, Mauna Kea Management Board, and the various committees, having them to be present on the mountain and to be in a capacity to help manage and regulate these activities. So we have that. That's roughly the history, except I just wanted to mention one more thing. There are 13 telescopes currently. Well, there's 12 telescopes in the summit area, and there's another telescope below the summit, which is the VLB, I believe. And so they're pretty much at build-out capacity in accordance with the prior plans, the 83 complex development plan. There was a proposal to expand or add on to the Keck Outrigger telescope. That was the last major action before the board, I believe, with respect to telescope development. And that actual CDUP was approved by the board at one point, but then it was reversed by the courts. And largely that's one of the reasons why we're here today.
The comprehensive management plan opens with a cultural anchor prepared by the Edith Kanakaole Foundation. This is really most appropriate because since the beginning of this decade, since about 2002, Hawaiian culture and values have been at the center and the heart of the University of Hawaii's mission and strategic vision and plan that speaks about, and this is the second point I want to come to, Kapiko o Namoku, Mauna Kea. I want to be clear and explicit in acknowledging the cultural and spiritual significance of Mauna Kea to the university. Yes, it is of scientific importance as well, but we must always put the spiritual above the temporal. I want to acknowledge publicly this morning that up until the master plan that the university crafted in 2000, this goes to Sam Gaughan's question, up until that time, I believe it's fair to say that UH stewardship had fallen short, and many in the community felt pain and hurt. And I apologize to those in the community who felt that pain and hurt. Final communication I want to make to the board is that UH is indeed fully supportive of this plan as the best approach to manage Mauna Kea in the most culturally appropriate way.
As time goes on, we're going to improve the plan. We want to improve the plan. We want to get more detail into it. It's not something that it's going to be just a one-shot deal. But it was more a facetious comment about those people
So
are telling us to
basically
wait.
what you're saying is an evolving type plan.
It's going to be an it's always going to evolve. Thank you.
You know, when I had heard you make the presentation, I actually was pleased to hear what I thought when you said that they were going to be incorporated into the CMP and that the university may be bringing forward an amendment to the board. But now I'm a little less clear about what the intentions are for those documents. And again, I think Tim's statement is fair, Barry, that it really is something more for the university to answer,
Right.
because we know you folks are proceeding with developing those plans.
Right. One thing about on the local level that we've taken a position is we're for transparency. And we have nothing to lose, I think, by bringing the plans to you and share it with you and make it part of the CMP. I think we have a lot to gain by doing that. And as far as the local, I think, speaking for Stephanie and myself and Kauku Mauna Council, I think we prefer that we bring these sub-plans, bring it to you guys, hey, look, this is what we want to do, so you know and you're aware of what we're doing. I think the days of secrecy and you do what you want to do and nobody else want to, as far as we're concerned, it's in the past.
And that any future restriction on access would be subject to greater community dialogue and adoption of rules. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear that under the lease that the Board of Land and Natural Resources has with the university, it does retain the public access rights, and that it's clear for you folks at the university level that the university would not have the authority to adopt rules to restrict public access, and that if it were to do so, under the conditions that we have listed here, so I'm trying to find the exact one. I think it's condition 5. What's being proposed by staff is that the BLNR would not be delegating any other authority to the Board of Regents other than what's already been delegated in the lease. And since public access has not been delegated, that would be an issue that would have to be managed by this board rather than through the university.
And we thoroughly understand that in preparation of the comprehensive management plan. I think there was, as we looked at the various cultural and the natural resources, access was an issue related to the challenges faced with protecting and preserving the resources. But rest assured, it was not the intention of the University of Hawaii to circumvent the DLNR's authority over the road. It's a public road, and that should be kept open. So I don't think we were in this plan attempting to in any way override DLNR's authority. I think what we wanted to do was have some thoughtful discussion on what are some of the challenging issues related to access, and should there be any recommendation regarding access, that would always be brought to the Board of Land and Natural Resources. But I don't think we were here, we were just identifying an issue, a management issue, but it was not intended to adopt a policy restricting access.
Does the legislation that you guys are pursuing, does that change that issue?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's the university continues to have whatever DLNR gives them under the lease. Yes, I don't think they're getting anything more than what they have. The legislation isn't giving them any more authority than what they have under the lease.